Om Shri Sai Ram, offering my most humble and loving salutations at the lotus feet of our beloved Bhagwan, Sri Satya Sai Baba. Yet again, it's my privilege to bring you another episode of his story through the eyes of his boys. We have two wonderful brothers today who will give us another glimpse of the divine life. So let us start this journey with our prayer, and I request all of you to please feel free to join. O Lord, take my love and let it flow in fullness of devotion to Thee. O Lord, take my hands and let them work incessantly for Thee. O Lord, take my soul and let it be merged in one with Thee. O Lord, take my mind and thoughts and let them be in tune with Thee. O Lord, take my everything and let me be an instrument to work for Thee. Om Shri Sai Ram. Welcome to this session of his story through the eyes of his boys. Today, I have the pleasure of bringing two of my brothers from different time zones to come together to share this divine saga. Let me introduce one by one. I have brother P. Satya Narayan Menon. Sai Ram, brother.
Sairam,
Brother
Sairam,
Satya,
brother.
Sai Ram. Brother Satya is in Bhagwan's fold from a very childhood, but he joined the institutions in 88 when he did his graduation. And then he also studied in Vrindavan. He did his MFM from Perthi. And presently, he is in Kuwait. He's working as a senior manager, credit risk in a national bank, I think Al Ahali Bank of Kuwait, in the credit risk department. So, Satyanarayana, brother, welcome to this offering and thank you for accepting the invitation.
Sairam, Sairam, brother Abhi. Thank you. My most humble pranams at Bhagwan's lotus feet. First of all, gratitude to Bhagwan and thanks to you for having us on the show. And whatever we share, we pray that Bhagwan speaks through us. And whatever we share on the show is with the perspective that our story is His glory. So thank you,
Certainly, certainly.
Sairam, Sairam. Thank you.
And Brother Satya is also a National Council President of the Sri Satya Sai Seva Organization of Kuwait. So he has a
Yeah,
responsibility
my
too on his
term.
shoulders.
Yeah, my term ended on 31st December 2020. For the last 2 years, I was president. So now
Okay, so you're an ex-president now. Okay,
I'm
thank
the
you.
ex-president. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. And let me also welcome Brother Bhaskar Katta. Sairam Bhaskar.
Sairam Abhimanyu, Sairam.
Brother Bhaskar has been with Bhagwan also from a very childhood. He wanted to jump into the college school in Uti. Unfortunately, that didn't work out. He got an admission and then he had to step back for health reasons. And then he again, I think divine call happened and he came to do his 8th standard from Prashantinilayam campus in 1983. And then from there on, Brother Katta stayed on to do his graduation in BSc from Vrindavan. Then he came back to Perthi for his master's in MBA, I would say, master's in business administration. And then his journey has taken him to various parts of the world and grown in professionally also and spiritually also. And today, Brother Katta is in Australia, Melbourne, and he's head of digital operations at Westpac Banking Group. So, Brother Katta, welcome and thank you once again.
Thank you, Abhimanyu. My most humble pranams at Bhagwan's lotus feet. It's a great opportunity to try and share. And I think Satya eloquently put it. It is us speaking while he's speaking through us. Sairam.
Thank you,
Sairam
brother.
Katta.
Sairam,
Sairam Katta.
Satya.
It's nice to meet, and I tell you, people, one from Kuwait, so your time zone is in the afternoon there, and Brother Katta is midnight where you are. It's such a pleasure, and thank you very much. And I hope devotees also will enjoy your, session with us. So let us start this journey. Let me start with the Brother Satya. So Satya, give us a glimpse about because let's hear it out how Bhagwan plugged you in, your family, into his fold.
Yeah, it's wonderful to remember those how Bhagwan actually brought it. It's actually Bhagwan who decides when we actually come into his fold. But then our journey started way back in 1958, and it happened through my grandmother. So my grandmother actually, what had happened was my grandmother had three children. The youngest of the children was just 2 years old, and the child passed away. So she was actually going through a lot of depression and a lot of mixed feelings. So when this was happening, actually one fine day, this happened in a place called Terricheri in Kerala. She was actually working in the fields along with somebody, and she was planting some plants there. And it so happened that they found a small coin. The coin had on one side Shirdi Baba, on the other side there was an Abhayhasta pose. And later they could read that the wordings there mentioned was in Tamil, Nan Irikkaen Yen Bayan, means in loosely it translates into why fear when I am here, actually. So you can see on the top part it is in Tamil. So the thing is, this came, this came at the right time for her. Actually, at that point in time, they had not, they had not read it because they didn't know Tamil actually. So they also was not familiar with Shirdi Baba. So actually, they asked around in the neighborhood. After asking around in the neighborhood, one person down the street was a Shirdi Baba devotee, and that person said, "This is Shirdi Baba." And they also went on to say that actually Shirdi Baba has taken birth once again, and he is there now as Satya Sai Baba in Puttaparthi. He also has a residence in Bangalore. So wonderful. So what they decided is, my grandmother, along with her mother and sister-in-law, actually, they decided to actually move and have Bhagwan's darshan. So they actually traveled, those days it was difficult to reach Puttaparthi. So they took the train right up to Penukonda, then it was through bullock cart. But when they reached Parthi, they were told that Swami was actually in Brindavan. So they took the journey back, again went to Brindavan. Brindavan, those days, you remember it was under the trees and, it was the old bungalow. It was not the shed like it was nowadays. So they went around and they were a group of five of them. And my grandmother was the only one who was a devout person. All the others had just come out of curiosity. They had just come to see who Swami is. Swami came out, and once he saw all of them, Swami blessed my grandmother profusely and said, "I know you have a lot of devotion. You are extremely devoted. I know you have monetary difficulties." He gave them Path Namaskar. One of my other grandmother's sister who had actually gone, she had seen Swami used to have pan those days. So the thing is, it was this pinkish tinge actually. So she thought that Swami wears lipstick and Swami is so modern and all that. And then Swami also played along. So after speaking to my grandmother, he went and told her also, "So you think I'm like a film star and very fashionable?" And to another person who was a grandmother's sister, he actually told her that you should get your stomach checked. You have a stomach problem. You have, you have a tumor in your uterus. And she said, no, just don't have anything. And, later when went back, they actually were ridiculing Swami, saying that, he doesn't know anything. But then, whatever Swami says is the truth. We all know that. 20 years down the line, she actually had a tumor in her uterus and she had to
Oh,
have an operation to get it removed. So this was how we came in. Subsequently, my mother, my grandmother, and their family also traveled to Prashanti Nilayam. That was in 1963. They were extremely fortunate to get an interview from Bhagwan, and Bhagwan also blessed them very profusely and told them, "I know you have a lot of monetary difficulties. I will. You don't need to come repeatedly to Prashanti Nilayam. I will call you whenever required." And told them to shift out of, he also told them to shift out of the place they were in. They were in Terricheri. He said, you please move out. I asked my grandfather to take up another job. He said, it's an Naxal infested area. And, he says, I will always take care of you. So this, even today, when we think of those
beautiful,
whatever happened then, it gives you such a huge sense of, encouragement,
beautiful,
and you feel so nice that Bhagwan, this is how our family came to Bhagwan.
beautiful. Katta, I believe your introduction happened when you are getting born.
Yeah,
Yes. So
absolutely.
why don't you tell us that about?
No. Clearly, I mean, but I was my mom was introduced to Swami in 60s when she was working in a place called Guntur, and her uncle, maternal uncle, was she was with whom she was staying, and he was a devotee of Baba, Shirdi Baba, and then somebody introduced him to Parthi Baba, and that's how they were having bhajans there, and that's when my
So you
mother
both,
first, yeah.
so you both had a Shirdi connection.
Absolutely. And from there on, I think there was a bit of a gap. But then eventually, when my mom started actually Bal Vikas in 1975. So I was 5 years then. I had, obviously, if my mom was a Bal Vikas guru, I was going to be a student there. So I was obviously a part of it and started taking part of those activities very early on. And right at the time of birth, I think my mom had the first time vibhuti just before she went on to deliver. So in some ways, I was fortunate to have had vibhuti just before even I arrived into the world. So that was my entry into into this world. But having started in Bal Vikas, I still remember when she had gone for the first summer course back in 1977, if I'm not mistaken, and she had sat in Whitefield, and by then, actually, the Ooty students, they were very small, tiny tots who were there. Swami was actually showering a lot of love, pampering them, and she saw that and said, why can't my son have such an opportunity, is what her first reaction was. So when she came back, she actually told me, Swami has a school in Ooty, probably you could join because Swami gives a lot of love and attention. And I ended up just dreaming of that whole thing. And at the next opportunity, my dad was not really a conventional devotee. He was never not supportive of my mom participating in it, but he was not directly a devotee. But when my mom said, I will admit my younger one, I was my elder brother was still studying in my native place at that point of time. He was somehow agreed. And actually, my dad, my mom, and me traveled to Ooty and went through the whole process. And we're delighted that I got the admission. And as part of the admission, they had the formalities of having to. It was interesting because Swami was in Ooty. It was a phenomenal experience. I was barely 7 year old, but I still remember going inside that Satya Sai Vidyavanam, which is a building in where Vijay Vihar, where Swami would bring all the parents, students, everybody in. And as the final admission process was, the principal auntie and the warden auntie would actually ask the parents if there are any medical situation. And they would ask, Given it's a very, very cold place and there were bunk beds, did any kid have something like a bedwetting or any such habit? And my mom was very, very sincere, and she said, "No, once in a while." I was 6, 7 year old, so and she was over sincere, and the next thing we knew was they said, "No, we can't admit him then." And I started crying, and no, and they thought it was just instant reaction. Next day morning, I was really disappointed and I was crying. I still remember the principal auntie coming and saying, the warden auntie coming and telling my parents, saying that you are the only kid that I've seen. Kid is crying because most of the kids who got admission are crying because they don't want to leave their parents. It's very strange, but
Premanti.
that
Premanti.
yeah, that's right. I didn't know her name at that point of time, but that was the elderly woman there, and she said, "I'm the warden," and no, she's saying that you could easily solve for it, but anyway, now we've made the decision. But you can always come back. It's not the end of the world, sort of a thing. From there on, every year I was chasing my parents to apply for admission in Swami school. Come January, February, I would chase, get them, get an application, but apply, no reply. Right? There was hardly any admissions, very limited, and it kept going. I actually changed schools so that I could qualify because I knew, because that batch of students had moved to Parthi by then. Initially in Ishwarama, and they have come to primary school, not primary school, still in the main hostel, but in Parthi. So I found out that it had become CBSE curriculum. So in my own school town, I changed the school curriculum. I insisted that I move so that I could be prepared for that. So I was really determined to get into the school. And finally, in grade 8, there was an opening and managed to get admission. So that's how I landed, brother. So that was
We'll jump in more about that.
yeah.
Satya, I believe, let me bring Satya in. Satya, I believe you were also, because being part of the whole session with Bhagwan, so your parents were involved with bhajans and all that, and then your mom
Yeah,
had a little experience. So why don't you tell us about that too?
yeah, in the sense that my mother, from my mother's side, they were all devotees actually. And there was one wonderful instance which happened. We had just moved to Bangalore actually. This was in the year 1976 actually, and my mother was in the family way. She was carrying my immediate younger brother. This happened sometime in November, December of 1976 actually. We were in Bangalore and we were just walking down one day evening at around 6:15 in the evening, and then this place was, we were just around 250 meters from home, and suddenly we could hear bhajans actually. And there were some cars parked outside, and it was the residence of Mr. Arora. He later went on to become the MD of KSRTC actually. And since we heard bhajans, a curiosity arose. My mother was always into bhajans, and my mother was a devotee. So we all moved closer, and we looked around from the gate. Actually, we looked around inside, and then we saw, of all huge surprise, we saw Swami sitting inside, and Swami was looking right outside, and he motioned for all of us to come in. Actually, so we all went in, and we all sat around. Actually, at that point in time, my mother had a cough. It was an allergic cough, and then the bhajans were going on, and she was trying to cough. She was she was going on coughing, and then though she was trying to suppress it, she was not able to do so actually. So then she was not having medication since she was in the family way. So bhajans got over, Arti got over, and then Swami was just walking out, and then came very close to my mother and asked, what happened? Why are you coughing? She didn't say anything actually. Swami immediately created vibhuti and gave her vibhuti actually, and then from then on the cough just vanished actually. So this was one wonderful instance which happened just out of the blue actually. So just imagine, in a street in Bangalore, you go in and you find Bhagwan there, and so that was a wonderful it was a wonderful experience then. And to top it all,
Imagine that.
her cough,
Imagine
yeah,
that, walking on a street and suddenly you get called for
exactly. And
Swami.
to top it all, your cough gets cured out of the blue by the divine doctor. So, but I was also reminded of, what Katta, when Katta told me about the, Ooty school thing, I was reminded of just one more incident was, as we progressed in life, actually, when it came to when I was in my fifth standard, my father, my grandmother was very particular that I joined the Ooty school. Actually, she got the form and she filled it out and everything was done. But my father was was very much against it. He said, no, he's too young to go and join a hostel. There were a lot of discussions, but it never happened. And I could join, finally, with Swami's grace, I could join only in class 11. But then the point I was trying to make is Swami has his own sense of timing, and he knows when to admit and when to give us the great opportunity and blessing. That's what I just wanted to say, actually. Yeah.
So, Bhaskar, when was your first physical interaction with Bhagwan?
That was obviously after I joined. While I'd come to Parthi quite a few times before that, but once I joined is when I had my first interactions physically. My brother had actually joined by then a couple of years before, and even just a day when I started in Parthi, he had left to Whitefield for his undergrad. So to that extent, we were not in the same place at that point of time. So joining the hostel, you would really feel when you're leaving your house for the first time, and in a grade 8, I was very excited, at the same time anxious as to what it is. And I remember going to Mandir every morning, every evening, and sitting in darshan lines. Remember, we used to have sand in those days. The darshan sands, the beautiful sands where you'd sit and draw when you're sitting and waiting
The
for Swami
golden
to
era.
come.
The golden
Absolutely.
era of our life.
Absolutely. So I remember I used to keep scribbling something in my notebook, and daily I used to try and give a letter to Swami. And typical like a mother, right? He wanted to settle me in some form or shape, I guess. So he would take the letter every day. I then started writing a small one-verse poem every day, okay, in Telugu. I can't imagine doing so now, but at that point of time, I used to write 4-line one. And Swami would stand in front of me, take the letter, and read. Every day he would do that. He would read that, look at me, hit me on my cheek or on my head, and say, Kavi, Kavira, Kapi, Kapi. Means, no, you're a poet, actually monkey,
Poet.
monkey. Kapi is a monkey. So he would do that. So that sort of a physical interaction, it
Started.
made me forget everything about home and everything else, because you really look forward to it.
Wonderful.
So, Satya, when you joined the hostel, what was your impression? Like, give us a little insight into your, what was the feeling? How did you find the hostel environment and all that? Was it shocking? Adjustment?
No, it wasn't shocking. But then, when I joined the hostel, actually, one thing which stood out was the sense of camaraderie among the students. Actually, everybody was so very helpful, and this looked too unreal. Actually, everybody was extremely helpful. The sense of camaraderie, and when I was passing out from my 10th, I had heard of ragging in hostels, but this was the other extreme. People were too nice. So I remember reading somewhere that hostel is a place where each one lives for the other and everyone lives for God. So truly, actually, the Prashantanilayam hostel embodies this. Actually, it signifies this. So the one thing which, when I was at home, I had all the time at my disposal. But seeing the packed schedule in the hostel, I knew I had to get better at time management. Like you had to do a lot in a day. Actually, you used to achieve a lot in a day. So all the guys who were in the system, it came very seamlessly to them. But for me, it took a couple of months for me to fully adjust. Actually, to the fact that one of the things which needed adjusting to was the fact that you had only 1.5 hours to study. So when you are at home, you were not very productive with your time, but you used to sit in front of the book and waste a lot of time. But then you at least had the mental satisfaction that you were studying. But here you had to make that 1.5 hours count. But
8 to
one thing which
9:30.
was exactly 8 to 9:30, and then you had to make it count, even whether it was exams or tests or whatever it was. You had to finish it in that time. There was no question of a night out or anything of that sort. But I remember a few unnerving instances. See, when I just joined there, I used to take the whole of the study hour to actually finish my preparation for a test. And then some of the boys who were in the system actually, they used to finish studying by 8:45, 9, and by 9:15 he would have slept. And that used to be extremely unnerving to me. The thing is, I would struggle even at 9:30. I wouldn't have finished my portion. I would still be struggling to revise, or I would have something left over. But then here were guys, 8:30, 8:45, they finished, wound up, their bed is out. And during the study hours itself, they would have gone off
We
to
used to
sleep.
have boys who were competing for finishing Ramayans and other books.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
So that
Okay.
not to worry about. I don't know how they manage. But I'll
Yeah.
tell you what is important is that we always believe hostel played the most pivot role in the whole educational, uh, you know, materialization of Bhagwan. Whatever Bhagwan did, I think the hostel was the pivot. So Bhaskar, you joined at eighth grade, which is still comparatively, you're still a child. I would say Satya joined like I joined in 11th grade. We had little sense where we are going, but eighth is still can be considered as a young kid, and that too in an environment wherein you are supposed to manage yourself.
Correct.
It's a primary school environment was different because you had motherly teachers taking care of you, but here you're literally thrown and say, okay, that's your cupboard, manage it. So how did you feel it? How did Bhagwan come into that?
No, absolutely right. I think in terms of joining in the hostel, actually, that is a really interesting experience. Looking back, it is interesting now, but at that point of time, probably not so interesting. Uh, but it was a case where I still remember we had a SBI passbook where Venkatachalam sir, who was our warden or the floor in charge, he would had all our
Oh,
passbooks. Okay, and the money would get credited, and we had to do our own transaction because we used to do a withdrawal slip every month when the banker would come in sea floor, and we would withdraw whatever 20 rupees or 30 rupees of sorts, which is for our pocket money of sorts. That experience, living in a room with nearly 10 to 14, depending on which room it was, right? So living with, and the most beautiful part was you had to 8th standard kids, to 9th standard kids, to 10th standard kids, to 11th standard kids, and to 12th standard kids. Now it was a mix of all classes. When you
yeah.
come back to hostel, you almost knew what happened in the whole school, whichever class, because there was always conversations, right? I think it was so beautiful that at the same time you had the senior, junior, but we're all in the same room. The camaraderie which Satya talked about, I think it was even more beautiful in school, school hostel in the days when I joined and continued. I'm sure much afterwards too. And at the same time, uh, the wing teachers coming around, waking you up for Suprabhatam in the morning, and likewise shutting the lights off at 9:30 after the prayers, and all of this. It was quite. The other beautiful thing was again was on room duty of cleaning, right? Something which you're never used to: sweeping your own room, folding your own bed, seeing kids who come from houses where they're really pampered, and then having to manage a very messy cupboard versus then seeing some people who are veterans who are really, really smart at using those three cupboards so beautifully, impeccably. They also had an altar which was beautifully done. That you learned everything, including in my case, coming from a local school, which was a good school, but at the same time, never I could barely speak good English to start with. So I had a huge complex ability to speak. My handwriting was terrible compared to all the other kids who came from Ooty, because the same batch of kids who came from Ooty were my classmates. So they had such impeccable handwriting. Mine was like a chicken scratch of sorts. So I could barely read it myself. I was reasonably good at education, but no, I had to pick up all of those things, right? So it was really, really um, a combined experience both at hostel and school. At the same time, like I said, the evening darshans were really reassuring. I still remember in those days, I think later in the years, I don't think Swami ever spoke to me as many times as when I was started in grade 8. To your point of how Swami that was my time in grade 8 when I just joined. We were doing some Veda chanting. And I distinctly remember this photograph because I was much shorter than Swami. I hardly came up to Swami's hair. And so Swami, I remember once calling me in front. He was standing in the VIP devotees veranda, which is slightly a step above where we all would sit. He called me and said, "How is cigarette?" So I quickly realized that he was referring to my dad, because my dad was a chain smoker, or rather not chain smoker, but at least they smoked quite a bit. And he was, I was for a moment taken aback, because how did he ended up, because Swami, he was not even a devotee and hardly ever came to Swami, but Swami was immediately said cigarette. So, and he asked me, how did Swami asked me, so why don't you tell him to stop smoking? And I was like trying to answer the question, and then he himself laughed and said, you know, if you try telling that, you'll get whacked, right? And then he laughed. So he was trying to make me feel comfortable, right? In early days, taking your talking once in a while. And my brother also had moved out to Whitefield, so I had personally, from a family perspective, I was alone and starting first time in hostel. So to your point, Swami was so gracious in helping me settle in and giving the attention, while the hostel life was lovely. Had all those experiences. Of course, looking back, you always have very, very fond memories, while you had your stresses when you started, I'm sure.
We have heard your most stories of your family from your brother
Yeah,
Prasad when he was on the interview here.
yeah,
So I will not take you again there, but yeah,
yeah,
it'll be interesting to hear your perspectives now on, in our whole educational program of Bhagwan, self-reliant program, if I may put it in that context, play a very major role in
absolutely.
building this our personality and our character. And hostel, like we normally say, hostel is managed by the students themselves. For many people outside may not understand what does it mean manage themselves. So it was all divided into extra, social. We call it self-reliant programs. So in which you had your kitchen department, your plumbing department, maintenance, your stores. So let me ask you, Satya, which department were you involved?
Yeah, brother Abhi. Actually, hostel is a place, it thrives on self-help through mutual help, actually. So the thing is, when I joined in my class 11, one of the things I was involved in was the stores duty. So for the next 3-4 years, I was part of the stores. So one perk the stores students used to enjoy is that we could have dinner early. So which meant that everything was much hotter and you could get fresh, everything was. So just after the darshan was over, we come in, immediately have our dinner, and then we are off for stores duty. So that used to be 45 minutes to 1 hour, between 7 to 7:45. It was a wonderful experience, actually. So the thing is, you would know what are the buying patterns of students. You could actually help people out, whenever they needed something. That was a wonderful experience, being part of the stores. For the next 4 years, I used to be part of the stores. Subsequently, I moved on, and I also helped out being part of the fruit stall, actually. These are like sister concerns, actually. But then the
I
fruit
would like
They
stall.
to
also
tell
serve
the
the pizzas, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
That used to be after the darshan, Sunday morning, after Sunday morning darshan. But then you would have people trying to bribe you, saying that I wanted that extra bit of ice cream or whatnot. No, so those used to be perks, because in the stores you would have enough stock of everything, but with regard to fruit stall, you would get only a limited quantity. One of the things which used to be greatly in demand used to be the ice creams, actually. So Sunday mornings, the ice creams which would come in, or some of the, as Katta was mentioning, the pizzas and the cakes which come in, on a regular day in the evenings, they come in short supply. So you would have people trying to bribe you to say that, can you keep one piece for me and whatnot. So your value suddenly seems to increase.
Let me, because
Negotiation
viewers,
skills.
yeah, Satya, viewers have a little question. They wanted to understand the stores, what we are talking about.
Okay.
Actually, just to give them an idea, it is like a small shop, like a tuck shop kind of a thing. So that store is a shop which caters to all the requirements of the boys, starting from your stationery to even t-shirts and track pants, to
Yeah.
slippers and
Books,
our
books,
toothbrush,
pens.
toothpaste, books,
Yeah,
pen,
yeah.
everything. So it's like a
Everything. Yeah.
mini shop for us,
Departmental store.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a
departmental store.
yeah, mini convenience store or whatever you call it.
Yeah,
Mini
and
convenience
it's
store.
interesting. I don't know how much you are involved, but the purchasing in our time also used to be done by the students. Of course, sale was done by the students, accounting, and it was all balanced. And I don't think there was much of a profit margin there.
Yeah, but in
Yes,
our times, yeah, it used to be no profit, no loss. But our times, it used to be there used to be Mistri sir and Sainath sir. So they both used to manage it, and we used to
yeah.
play the support role. We were only in 11th and first year UG, and so we used to help them out. But the main
But your
managing
but
used to
your
be,
fruit salad was very great savior for most of us at many times.
yeah,
When the
yeah,
food was not to our taste, many boys
yeah.
go and depend on that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. I think there used to be a correlation. I think the days when you were getting pizzas or some cakes, you found that a lot of food being wasted, or there was
Yes,
less
it was.
demand for the
Yeah,
the
and this
less demand for
answering this, brother Pramod is asking. Yes, this
yeah.
this store which he's talking about is in the hostel.
It's in the hostel. Yeah, it's in the
Yeah.
hostel. Yeah,
Okay.
the items are actually brought, and we open for around half an hour, 45 minutes, and whatever
Every
people
night,
wanted,
every evening, it opens and it caters to all the boys' requirements.
yeah, yeah. Additionally, the fruit store opens also on Sunday mornings, because Sunday mornings the breakfast used to be very early, 5:30, 5:45, and sometimes not so popular with it used to be idli and the powder
Pongal.
actually. So yeah, yeah. So the thing is, it was not very popular. So the thing
Satya,
is.
you're raking up a lot of good memories.
Yeah, I think that's the objective of the show. Actually, yeah,
Excellent.
yeah. So
So, Bhaskar, what
that.
was your department?
Yeah, I guess uh, both in Parthi and Brindavan, I think, like you rightly said, hostel was the most formative, what made us complete in many ways. The number of opportunities we had, right from chapati rolling back in school, we would have a couple of periods when we would come back and do rolling chapatis for what, 500 students in the hostel, 500, 600 students. And imagine one or two chapatis is like more than 1,000 chapatis. And we would have one class coming every evening and making those 20 or 30 kids coming and trying to make those. And I still remember the amount of fun and also seriousness that went with it. You would make, initially we were so terrible in making those chapatis. They were always like all shapes of maps.
Maps.
they would they hardly would be of any shape or regularity, but eventually we would all make it happen because we all had to
Even
finish that.
Bhagwan used to joke about it, right? Which
That's right.
map did you make? South Africa,
Exactly.
Swami.
And we had to finish that and then rush for darshan after that. So to that extent, it was a phenomenal experience. But apart from that, I think the number of things you could do. In my time, I was still there were a group of students who were doing lighting of mandir for festivals, and that was only college students who would do it. But the school
Yes,
students like me at that point of time, in my eighth, ninth, we could only help in the hostel. So these are series bulbs which you would lay out. These are mandir lighting for birthday, all festivals. These students used to actually go and do the lighting. The wonderful
yes,
experience that they had. But my incentive was to be part of helping them in testing those lights and getting, they're very low voltage, pretty simple stuff. But at the same time, the whole experience of testing out the lights, the benefit eventually was getting some prasadam that Swami would give them. And that's what you would do. Likewise, in Whitefield, I was managing mics, what was called the AVC room. That was a phenomenal experience again. Trying and also maintenance. Maintenance. Some of the I used to join sometimes, but there was a big team which was doing maintenance while I was more specialized in mics. The most beautiful thing about Parthi is like what you realize now. What was so relevant then was there was nobody who knew anything. You all started learning from your senior. There were no training classes, nobody dropping you off, and you're not paying for anything. The senior guy will teach the next junior person, and the junior person teaches the next one. It's a trade that goes on That's most wonderful. The
Isn't the
opportunity.
most,
Yeah.
Bhaskar, don't you think it's a phenomenal succession plan?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Huh?
I still remember in Whitefield, because there's only 3 years of students. The third year student would be the head of the department. The second year department is the one getting to be the head of the department. The first year is the flunky who just starts, and you're having to carry all the wires and do the testing and everything else. But and very soon, within 1 year, you already become the senior person, and then within 2 years, you are the head of the department, right? So it was the type of experience, trust that was put in you. And I still remember I used to try my hand at soldering, trying to put wires, and people thought I really knew much, and they would come and give me some Walkman in those days. Something is not working. Can you fix this? And I used to tell them that, no. Do you think you can? Should I take a chance? And I'll try and fix it, but you should be prepared that it totally gets spoiled. They would say, okay, it's anyway, you throw away. Why don't you try? And I used to try 1 and 2 times. Probably I used to get it right. So it's entirely trial and error. At the same time, there was a lot of care taken on important things, but there were parts which were really you could also try. I think it was very entrepreneurial in many ways at a very, very early age. Yeah.
You have really pointed out a very important element of Bhagwan's style of functioning. And I remember talking to brother Kiran Patel and Naveen Patel from
Yeah.
London,
Yeah.
who were also in the batch. Naveen brother was in 70, and he was kind of in the beginning years. So Swami had literally handheld. And then next year, it was automatically, like, unsaid that he would teach the next,
Correct.
and the chain had started. So it was like the initial year, Swami would really handhold everything. Like you all must have seen when he started MBA also, it was like a
Correct.
baby for Swami. Everything he would do it, even for selecting furniture. But after that, once it is rolling, he would just leave it and then let people learn from there. It's phenomenal. Do you have any good memories of any teachers?
Oh,
Asking me or
can I?
Satya? Yeah,
Both
Satya,
of
go ahead.
you. I just leave
Yeah.
it open now to you, both of you, to please feel free.
Yeah, actually, the one person who comes to mind when you talk about teacher is Habu sir. Actually, as far as teachers go, their commitment is unbelievable. I think they set a very, very high standards in their commitment levels. Actually, one teacher who stood out, all the teachers in the school, of course, in college also, but I would like to first touch upon the school teachers. Actually,
Sure.
they worked with a lot of constraints. The school teachers actually worked with a lot of constraints on resources, but they did an excellent job. Habbu sir was one person I still remember during our class 12 days. Every day during our preparatory holidays, he would walk all the way from the mandir to the hostel. He would come in by around 7:30, just before study hours. He would go room by room. He would speak to each one and ask them the
Okay.
progress. We used to have maybe 3 or 4 days gap between the exams, but he had the knack of remembering each one's progress. And in case one of them was lagging, he would tell them in an inevitable style, he would tell, Baba, you have not progressed much, Baba. He was wonderful, and I think he was a true karma yogi. No wonder that the school got such excellent results. He led from the front, but you had a very dedicated team like Sai sir, Vednarayan sir, Venkateshwar sir, Shivram Krishna sir. I know I'm missing out a lot of names, but then these are the people who come top of mind. But Habbu sir led from the front. Every day he would sort of, and he had a notorious diary with him. Many of my classmates would vouch for it. In the diary he would mention, who is above 80, who is above 90. It was like he was like a human computer. Like he would tell you, he was more up to it on what marks you receive than you yourself. In the humdrum of the local schedule, you would forget actually your marks, but he would tell you, in that unit test you scored less. I want you to buck up, Baba, and he would sort of. But then he was also a very, very strict disciplinarian. Actually, I still remember. One day during our preparatory holidays
Abu sir
meant
was
just
a
before.
history teacher.
Yeah, he
Correct.
was a history
Most
teacher,
wonderful
exactly.
history teacher. Yeah.
Most wonderful. He would make history so vivid for people to understand. Actually, the thing is, he was also the principal of the school. So I remember we needed to be in the school by 8 o'clock in the morning. So there would be the wintry mornings. Sun just before our board exams. The last 2 months would be preparatory holidays. So I still remember. There was one particular day I was late by 2 minutes. Actually, it never happened. But then that day I was a little late. So it so happened that he was waiting right at the entrance, and then he said, "Hello, Baba, you are late." And slowly, his friend comes out. His friend was nothing but a cane, and with a flick of his wrist, actually, he gives you a shot on your hand. You would never forget that for a lifetime. Actually, I remember
Actually,
that.
he used to come and wake us up also. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
he used to go.
yeah. But
Actually,
then,
many
yeah,
teachers would
that
come, but he would always come around to check
exactly.
on you.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So
Janardhan
absolutely.
sir was an excellent wing teacher. Kote sir was there. Kote sir was a wonderful person. He used to sing in the mandir, but he was extremely strict, actually. But all of these, they were, those days, maybe we might have cribbed about the discipline, but then I think looking back on life, actually, it stood as an extremely good stead, in the sense that you know, we appreciate the sense of discipline, dedication, what it is.
Actually,
So I
Bhagwan
think,
had set a standard like that. Anything
exactly.
below 70, Bhagwan felt like according to him was failure.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's why the
exactly.
teachers had to pull everything up. So Bhaskar,
No,
what
no,
about
no.
you? What is your input in that?
No, I can't agree more. I think it'll be a disservice if I leave out any teachers. Without exception, all teachers were so. I'm not trying to be diplomatic, but genuinely, they were all had their character. I think the unique part about Perthi again was your teachers living with you. They were living in the same hostel as you, most of them. Of course, some of them were living outside, but they made up for it by visiting as often. But the whole experience of living with your teachers, seeing them, their human side, their classroom side as wing teachers, and many of them are also ex-students, which made them relate to what you were and what you would go through. It is obviously there was a lot of commitment, and like Satya was mentioning, constraints were many. At the same time, their resourcefulness was also very, very good. I think they found ways to try and manage, because the amount of stuff that used to happen in school, the co-curriculum agenda activities was so much, right? So they always, I mean, you had quiz programs, elocution programs, you had sports was unbelievably good. The amount of opportunities you had, you had things that normally most schools would not think of. The opportunities were created that had to be done by the teachers. They had to plan for it, they had to accommodate for it, they had to
Be
creative.
creative on it.
Absolutely, yeah. So I mean, across board, all those years, they're all very memorable teachers. You always have at that time, again, you might have complained or felt, come on, it's so strict or otherwise, but generally you always have very fond memories, and that's the reason when we even now go back to Parthi, you always feel like a family. They always remember your names after many, many years and still have the same connection. Yeah.
Let me put a spin to your thoughts now, because both of you have gone into the nostalgia.
Yeah.
Hostel was always busy. Bhagwan had kept a routine which never allowed you to breathe and think from the morning you got up till you slept. But how did it change when we heard Bhagwan is coming formally to visit?
Ah.
Any memories of interaction? Any memories of any good days?
Yeah, Swami coming to a hostel, especially in early days, was like he would come unannounced, right? A lot of times you would just hear that Swami has left the mandir, and the type of activity, the pace of activity that would happen, cleaning up the entrance, cleaning up the altar, the dining hall where we all would sit together, cleaning up your rooms, because Swami would come in, probably walk into your room and see the altar or something like that. It was the speed at which, the coordination at which people would do, and how people would, be it school students or college students and everybody, you can't believe it's the same place that was 1 hour before. When Swami comes, everything looks perfectly in order. That's phenomenal. Again, this is ability to react to emergencies. There are a lot of these things are life lessons that you learn from there.
Yeah, I cannot agree more with Katta. Like it's actually learning on the job. But one particular instance actually comes to mind. Actually, I want to share one instance. This
Sure.
happened, if I remember right, somewhere in the first week of September. It was in the year 1990, and it was on Ganesh Chaturthi day actually. And then Swami students had been asking Swami to come to the hostel and whatnot, and Swami had been Swami had been putting it off. So it happened to be a Sunday, and that day morning, no, so again, students asked Swami to come to the hostel. It was not that anything had been readied in the hostel. Nothing was there. But then that particular day, I think there was a Mister School, some competition was there. But there had not been any major preparations for Swami. And uh, though boys had been requesting Bhagwan, they really didn't expect Bhagwan
To
to
say
say yes. Yeah. And then Bhagwan said yes, actually. And then just before, and Swami said, "You all go, I'll follow you." And then the whole mandir, was empty within seconds. It was empty, and then people rushing back to the hostel. And you won't believe it, Swami came to the hostel maybe by around 9:05, 9:10. Just after he finished Aarti, and then came off to the hostel. There was nothing ready actually. And then immediately in a hurried manner they actually laid out the carpets and whatnot. And then the dining hall used to be the place, with the backdrop of the altar used to be the place. You won't believe it, that day we had requested Swami to speak, and Swami just stood there patiently waiting for the mics to be set up. And Nanjundaya sir he didn't have proper mics, and like a pop singer, he had to carry the mic and
Mike
do his the
translation.
translation actually. And what followed was an impromptu discourse, wonderful Ganesh Chaturthi discourse, uh, unbelievable actually. And then it
Hostel.
just showed in a
But
hostel.
cleaning the hostel used to be like, oh my God, it was like a
Yeah,
festival,
when
right?
yeah when you had time, yeah, no doubt about it, the whole hostel used to get into full readiness mode, battle ready for Bhagwan to actually
I think
come.
the
And
music programs which would happen, the preparation for songs, and the highlight was obviously the dinner, for which
yeah,
there were extra varieties used to happen, and Swami would walk
exactly,
around between the students as we
yeah,
sat down,
yeah,
and
exactly.
it was a
We
phenomenal
used to have
experience.
like 21 items have to be something like that,
Correct.
odd number.
Yeah,
21
I think
items.
one year there was 25 actually. Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember.
something
Yeah,
like that. It
yeah,
was 21, 25 items has to be there for the dinner.
yeah.
Phenomenal.
So
Bhaskar, you were also in the dance.
Yeah,
Any good memories of that? Can you
yeah.
believe
I think
Bhaskar Katta, the MD of the company, used to dance Bhangra?
no, no. I think very, very fond memories, and I remember those memories together with you, Abhimanyu, because I remember in uh, that was the first time actually in 60th birthday, as a preparation for 60th birthday. I think we had Swami had invited some teachers from outside, who from Hyderabad, if I'm not mistaken, they had come along, and
For
we were
teaching us
preparing to
Bhangra.
teaching us yeah,
Mm.
Bhangra, Naga dance, and one other dance which we had. And the amount of time that we put in is one side, but the amount of time Swami put in to come and visit our rehearsals to see
Oh,
how we are drawing is unbelievable. I think it is
unbelievable.
that was itself, just being part of that troupe itself was so many opportunities. Swami would come morning and quite a few times, and as we got closer to the final day, Swami would come even for our rehearsals, our makeup. The day of birthday, I still remember we were
He
dressing
in fact
ourselves
got the
in
dresses for us. He in fact got
dresses
the
for
dresses.
exactly. He got dresses for us. We were in that time it was car shed, if I'm not mistaken, where Swami's cars were there. They were taken out, and that was
Wow.
our makeup room. And Swami would come there actually and see what we were wearing, whether it was suiting properly. And you had some fond memories too, Vimanyu. Probably you should share that.
Oh, no, I know. Don't trigger here.
Yeah, no, but I
Actually,
think
that day Swami had come out early morning. Uh,
correct,
Darshan was in stadium. We were getting
correct.
dressed up, and Swami came at around 6:30,
6:37.
6:45.
Yeah, yeah,
He came without changing. He was actually wearing an old robe,
yeah.
and I felt very bad. I told brother Radha Krishna, that why didn't you make him change? He said he just ran. He said my boys are here, and he just came to see you all. And then Swami had arranged breakfast for us in the mandir.
Correct. Correct. Absolutely. Yeah.
And then he asked all of you to stand in front of the chariot. He said, "You dance in front of me."
Correct. We did the whole all along to the Hillview Stadium. I think,
And
but early in the morning, you're absolutely right. 6:30 in the morning, Swami coming. He arranged for the dresses, came and saw whether we were really wearing them properly. Had breakfast for us, and the amount of love and concern on his 60th birthday, when there were millions of people around, lakhs of people around. That again goes back to showing how much of love he had for us as students, and also
and the
the amount of
next year he did not invite the teachers. He wanted us to do it on our own. And
yeah,
then he got us stitched the dresses, right? I'll
correct.
show you the picture here. If you have a memory of these, all whole dress is given by Swami. The
Yeah,
dhotis were chosen by him, the headscarf and the jacket. Do you
yeah.
remember him giving you in the interview room all this?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, I mean, he was involved like everything, like you told mentioned earlier. Swami was in anything, dance, starting of a program of dance, or starting a hospital, or starting an MBA program, name it. In every one of them, the starting time, amount of time and effort and personal attention to the detail that he has. Again, it just shows, if you think from a management perspective, that is exactly what you do, right? Swami was teaching us, always saying how you have to be hands-on, how you have to be involved, how you have to ensure that the attention to detail is there. And then once it gets into a sort of a rhythm, then he pulls back and diverts his attention elsewhere. So
Correct.
that's how he's able to cover so many things at the same time. Yeah,
And to the micromanagement, not only the
absolutely.
macro side, he can go to the,
Correct.
he in fact taught you particularly how to tie dhoti.
That's right.
It's unimaginable stories, huh?
Yeah.
Satya, you were in the sports too. I think both of you were in sports. So let me start with Satya. What was your favorite sport, Satya?
Yeah, the thing is, Parthi was an amazing amalgam of talented people. So I knew that I really didn't have a chance either at singing or academics. I was okay. So sports was one thing right from my childhood. My father was a sportsman. I was also quite active at cricket. Actually, cricket was something which I used to be quite active at. So sports was something which really was one way where I could get closer to Bhagwan also. Like the thing is, sports also brought me some very wonderful memories. Actually, I would like to share one particular memory here. Actually, this happened
Sure.
in my first year UG actually. And every Sunday used to be the busiest day of the week. Actually, though in most parts of the world it's the Sabbath day, day of rest. But for us, Sunday was the most busiest day. So, like in the sense, morning darshan, breakfast darshan, and then we come back. We used to have our cricket matches starting sharp at 10, and then it used to go on in the afternoon. Then most times those who play cricket wouldn't have their lunch also, and then we just rush off to the darshan in the evening. So one particular day, what had happened was it was a match, and we were just starting out. So some of them who would be familiar with cricket is on the ground. It's on the ground actually. We used to put a mat, and the mat is held fastened to the ground with nails actually. Normally the nails are hidden quite well, but that particular time, one of the nails was a little indented actually. But no, we didn't think that that would make a difference, but in the ultimate analysis, that did make a difference. So I used to play as a wicket-keeper batsman. So I was keeping wickets, and there used to be one bowler. That day he was bowling very fast. I don't know, some inspiration, inner inspiration, and he was bowling extremely fast that day. And I don't know, there are some particular days I wasn't collecting the ball very well. I was the wicket keeper and I was not collecting it very well, actually. So one particular ball, it just happened this way, and one particular ball went and landed on the nail. So once this ball goes and hits the nail, the however how it's going to move, the trajectory is unknown. It can move in any particular way. So it hit the nail, and it headed straight for my eye actually. So it gave me very less reaction time actually. So I was keeping wickets, And the next thing I know is I had just closed my eyes, and I was quite sure my eye was gone, because from the line of sight, it was headed straight for my eye. But there was some force which sort of pushed me down. I just remember that went down, and the ball came and nicked on my eyebrow. No, the mark is still there. It nicked me, and a huge amount of blood started flowing out, actually. And those days, if you remember, this was in the year 1990. We didn't have any transport to speak of. Somebody had to run from here to the Vidyagiri gate and get at best a cycle rickshaw, actually. So so somebody had started running from here, and then immediately they found a car. So one of Swami's relatives was checking out his car, and car had some engine trouble. And as soon as somebody was running for it, you saw the car actually coming in. So I was taken in the car to the hospital. In fact, that somebody pushing down my head actually saved my eye. So they took me to the hospital. It needed a few stitches, actually. And there was one teacher from the primary school. Her name was Dr. Vasundhara. I even saw her last time when I went to Parthi. She was the one who stitched me. Yeah, she was the one who stitched me. So she said, "What's happening with boys?" Because just the previous day, Bharat Dutt sir had played basketball, and he also had an injury at the same place, just on the eyebrow. So you won't believe it. The car cooperated with us till we reached the hospital. And once the stitching up was done, and we want to go back, the car refused to start, actually. So, Swami has his own ways. So the thing is, it took quite a while. So we were told that the car had engine trouble. Luckily, it didn't have engine trouble. This is a Sai incidents. It didn't have engine trouble to bring me to the hospital. But then, as soon as we had to leave to the hostel, it developed engine trouble. But that was Swami's intervention. The story didn't end there, actually. So 2-3 days down the line, I went to the warden and asked him for permission to go in front. But then he was extremely reluctant to allow me, because he had this experience of Bharat Dutt sir having this injury, and then seeing repeated injuries. He knew that Swami will give him a bashing. So then he said no. So he asked me to wait for 1 or 2 more days. So finally, I went and sat in front for darshan, and then we wait. Swami just opened the door. As soon as Swami opened the door, he looked, he saw me, but then he acted off as though he didn't see me. Actually, he walked straight. Then later, where the Khyaldas sir sits, that first step is there, isn't it? When he reached there, he speeded up, and then he showed a lot of concern. He came rushing to me and he said, "You're not careful. What would have happened if it had hit your eye?" So I was speechless. I didn't know what to tell him. I was too moved by the occasion that Swami had spoken and Swami had inquired about me. And so it didn't strike me. What Swami had said didn't strike me then. So when Swami went out for darshan, and my mind sort of settled down a bit, I just gave a little more importance to what Swami said. And Swami had said that what would have happened if it had hit your eye? That's when I realized that there was some power which had actually pushed me down. And that's when I realized that, it was just that Swami who had saved my eyes. So that was a wonderful sort of an experience. And then the next few days, whenever he saw me, he used to ask, stitches, when are the stitches being removed? You should be careful and all that. So I told him, Swami, the doctor has asked me to come on Wednesday. And Swami said, no, Wednesday, not good day, Friday. So in our own human, this one, I went on Wednesday to the general hospital. And then the doctor, as the divine doctor said, that the stitches are not yet, it's not healed properly. You come back after 2 days. So it's just that the divine doctor really had his way. But this was a wonderful instance of how Bhagavan, even without calling out to him, he guides and guards us. In the hostel,
Yeah,
this
actually, Swami's involvement with everybody,
yeah,
that itself is an aspect of his divine nature.
yeah,
That he
yeah,
can
exactly.
be he can be close to everybody at the same
Yeah,
time.
Exactly.
That's the
And
uniqueness.
he makes you feel that Swami is yours. Actually, he makes
Yours completely.
each person,
Yeah.
and everything is an individual treatment. So
Bhaskar, in
that
the 12th, I think it was your Prasad had mentioned about your dad's, health. It was
Yeah,
in 12th grade of yours. So that must
yeah,
have been a little shocker
absolutely,
to hear
absolutely.
about your dad at that time. And that too, Swami broke that news to you, correct? In a way, in a way.
Absolutely. You're right. I think it was in my 12th. I had finished my exams, and since 12th exams get over earlier than the other exams, so we had, as a group of bunch of students, we had rushed to Brindavan. Swami was already in Brindavan, and actually, what had happened was my dad had fallen ill, and it was serious, and he was actually in a different town, and my mom had not notified me or my brother because he was in his final year MBA and I was in my year 12. She didn't want to disturb us or distract us, and so she didn't let us know. So without knowing what was happening, I had gone to Whitefield thinking it was just normal visit. And when I went there, Swami had first day had seen me. The next day when he came out, because in the morning times only the students all had Whitefield students had all gone to college, so only few of us were there. And when we were standing there, Swami came out. I still remember vividly. Swami was going for an inauguration of some company, if I'm not mistaken, Joy Ice Creams or something like that, which was in Bangalore. While going out, he called me, and I thought, "Wow, Swami is calling." I ran, and he said, "What are you doing here? Go home. Go see your dad." And I thought, "Oh, Swami is talking to me." I just was in a different world, and I was happy. I didn't even bother. I just sat there and thinking that, okay, Swami wanted to have a great opportunity for me to at least have that conversation. I was thanking myself to have made that trip to Whitefield and things like that. When Swami was coming back, I was still there. And this time round, his voice was very different. He just said, "What are you doing here? I told you to leave." And immediately he called somebody from inside to bring prasadam. And he got Vibhuti prasadam. And Swami said, "Take Padanamaskar, take the prasadam, go see your dad." And nobody had communicated. My mom had not communicated physically to Swami. But Swami said, "Give it to your mom. Swami is there. Don't worry." And that's how he broke the news. And actually, when I went back immediately, because I suddenly realized that Swami was really serious and something I was missing, went back. My dad was in very late stages of cancer at that point of time, and Swami had communicated and told my brother afterwards to come back quickly after going and seeing my dad. And while my dad passed away at that point of time, but the amount of attention and love Swami gave us the type of blessings that he had done. Asked my mom, my brother, and me to come back. Got us to stay with him for nearly 1 month in Vrindavan, and again asked us to follow him to Parthi. The amount of love as a mother that he had taken, called us for an interview a couple of times, and actually told my mom, he asked us everything about what property you had, what liabilities you had, how do you sort out. Swami will take care of everything. Swami will take care of your children. And he was like, I couldn't have imagined any other healing to all of us after an incident like that, because it was most unexpected. It was a very short notice development that had happened. But I think the key lesson is Swami is not going to stop everything that is going to happen, but he helps you give the strength and capability to face into it, smoothens it, and ensures that you are taken care of. And I think all these years, looking back, I think Swami and his word of saying that I'm taking care of you, I'm always with you, I'm taking care of your children, that's the word that he had given my mother. We are eternally grateful, and those words always ring in our hearts.
True. And I tell you, you're right, because, once Swami, as he said, once I hold your hand,
Yeah,
I won't let it go, even if you want to try. So, but his physical presence is also not a limitation in a way. Satya, I recall your dad having some health issue, and
yeah,
something happened, and physically he didn't do anything but happened, right? So, can you just share it
yeah.
quickly?
Yeah, sure, brother. Actually, this Katta would recall. Actually, this was when Katta was the institute captain, and I was in my third year, and we were as a part of group of captains actually who were. I think we got around 7 or 8 interviews. We were extremely fortunate that year. We got around 7, 8 interviews. And during one of the interviews, actually, I had just received a letter from home saying that my father was extremely unwell and he needed a surgery. And he had a cyst in his abdomen, and the doctors had actually done their scans and all that, and had said that a surgery needs to be done, that is urgently required. So I was extremely those days we didn't have the mobile phones. It was only the only the letters which came in. So when I got this opportunity, we went in. As soon as I went in, I remember telling Swami, your father is not keeping well. So Swami just patted and said, Prasadam Istam. So I remember that interview went off like a blur. I couldn't concentrate on the interview actually. I was more interested in actually receiving the prasadam at the end and sending it home. So at the end of the interview, the normal the prasadam bag which comes out didn't come out, and everybody started moving out. So I told Swami, Swami, my father is not keeping. I told him again. I tried to tell him in 1 or 2 languages, but then Swami
What
has very
language?
yeah, because Swami also has wonderful filters, So Swami listens only what. So Swami said he patted. He said Prasadam Istam, and we all went out. I was extremely disappointed. So I just, I started feeling, maybe I'm not a farm boy, and Swami doesn't talk to me often. So just to clarify, farm boy is that whom Swami showers a lot of attention. So I just felt
Physical
very bad
attention.
about it. Yeah, I felt very bad about it. But then when I contacted home next time after 4 5 days, I just came to know that. My father had gone for his next round of checkups. That was to decide on the date of the surgery, actually. And then when he went and reached there, the doctors did their scan and they were absolutely stunned, actually. And they said that there was no need of a surgery, actually. So, and the doctors were exactly shocked, actually. So, the prasadam which he had to give me, he had delivered right at home. He had ensured that my father had gotten well. So many times the learnings from these things is the many times we want Swami to bless us in the way we want, not allowing him to do it the way he wants. He knows what is best for us. So these are looking back, this was a wonderful instance where Swami
Beautiful.
took care remotely,
Interpreting
seamlessly.
interpreting Bhagwan is another challenge in our lives. We try to
Oh,
do that.
exactly. Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. I
so
think
how did you? Let me jump now to the your MBAs. So how did you decide to become, take up MBA as a course? So Kata, what was
Yeah.
your starting point there?
Frankly, it was something. I was in Whitefield doing my undergrad, and I was doing my BSc chemistry. I I was doing reasonably well, and had a pathway to try and continue into MSc chemistry. At the same time, many of my classmates were applying at that point of time for MBA. So, like we all knew at that point of time, we always wanted Swami's guidance in everything that we were doing. Wanted Swami to ask Swami what we should do. We did that after year 12. We tried to do it after degree, but so we were in Whitefield. Swami was physically in Parthi. There was a deadline coming very, very close to finally applying for MBA. And I was really thinking very hard, saying, should I apply? How do I know that that's what Swami wants me to do? And all of that. I was really, every evening, I was thinking before sleeping, saying that, how do I get a message? As we got closer to the date, uh, actually, I had a dream where Swami came in and it was a transparent glass building. And he calls me and asks me to come and take Pada Namaskar. I'm not somebody who's got too many dreams where Swami has come in. I'm not as fortunate, but when they happen, they become so momentous. So I thought probably he's giving me the blessing to go and apply. The way I rationalized in my head was in those days, Swami, we all knew, or we at least believed that after the rounds of interviews and Viva Voce and everything else, the final short list would go to Swami, and Swami would bless the list, and after which. So the way I thought about it was saying, Swami has blessed me in the dream, and physically let me do my best for the exam. And if he really wants me to get the MBA, then he will give me it. Otherwise, I will just continue doing MSc. And that's how I ended up taking that call. And just to probably just close out on that element, that building, I never, I'd not seen that before. Couldn't have related to any of the other buildings, like be it but Shivam or Sundaram or in anywhere. But year after, 2 years afterwards, when actually we had gone to Kodai, and the day we were leaving back from Kodai, Swami leaves early in the morning, and then they remove all the curtains and everything else. That was the building, actually. It was exactly the same building in my dream, what I had seen. That was a building which I'd seen 2 years before in my dream, where Swami had blessed me. So I was really stunned when I saw that. What a coincidence. It was not just a coincidence. It was absolutely Swami blessing me to go ahead and do that. If that's how
Wow.
I picked up my MBA.
Beautiful. So it was like an assurance, but you didn't know about it.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. Satya, how did you join? Any special, or it was just a normal application and in?
No, I wasn't so lucky like Kata. But then what happened was, what had happened was right at the time when I was joining school, I always had this feeling I needed to do an MBA from Parthi actually. It was an inner prompting, frankly. But then after, I didn't know that the MBA boys got more attention prior to joining. So after joining, I could see the sort of attention that the guys got. So I went ahead, prepared for the entrance and everything. And then at that point in time, we just came to know that there was a new course commencing with a specialization in finance. So since I had done my bachelor's in commerce and I intended to specialize in finance anyway, I got into this new course called Masters in Financial Management. So that was how my induction into the MBA
Excellent.
MFM course happened. Yeah.
Let me now. Both of you are a very professional now, and you are touchwood heading big organizations. And now I'm sure you can look back and make a very professional evaluation of your academics and your experience from that. How would you explain to us, why do you think, let me ask, starting with this, why do you think Bhagwan Baba, out of all, started a professional course like MBA? What do you think is the different element or different flavor of MBA in Perthi than in other places, if you may? I leave the floor open to both of you.
Okay. Probably, Satya, you want to go first?
No, Kata, I'll leave it to you. Kata. I'll leave
Okay.
it.
Sure. Thank you. I personally think Swami had started the MBA, but I think he had a very different accent to it. I still remember when the first batch of MBA, he showered so much of love and attention, and I had known a lot more because my brother also was in the first batch of MBA too. But he was personally involved in going and giving speeches, and so we had heard that had percolated down. I think the key difference of MBA from Perthi versus anywhere else is the fact that Swami was directly involved in some sort of courses he was also teaching in the first couple of years. But the key focus was on management, man management. He called it not just MBA, but it was MMM, Master of Man Management. I think that was a unique differentiator. I think Swami very strongly believed that leadership is such an important aspect of any organization, be it a company, for profit, not profit, but leadership, the personal values, the behaviors, the type of commitment, the type of uh, the ethics that you bring to work are things which are so important. How you take care of your people and how exactly you manage circumstances, situations, all of which, those are the things which make MBA from Puttaparthi stand out, because the courses by itself, the be it accounting, management, advertising, marketing, all of those are pretty standard. But the elements that Swami brought of man management, the values, the focus on purpose, and looking back now, now it's over nearly 27, 28 years since I passed out of my MBA. And through these years, I think I can tell that if post global financial crisis, or even more recently with COVID, which we are still getting through, the two things which have come back to the fore with large global multinational companies is about companies are no longer just purely for profit. They cannot survive on that alone. They have a role to play in the community. They all have values. The language of purpose is coming back. Why is the company in existence? Why is the company there? What is the role it plays in the society? Those are the conversations you see in most boardrooms of any large company. The whole financials, profitability, even investors are looking at ESG, right? Social and governance, all of that. So to that extent, those foundations were drawn by Swami in our MBA very, very early. I think for us, it's a delight for me when I start hearing the CEOs talk about these things now, because these were the values. And in fact, in the last organization that I was working, these are called new ways of leading. To me, they were not new ways anymore. They were 30-year-old ways of leading genuinely, with leading as a people leader, being concerned for people, wanting people's growth, and understanding, and not just being a boss subordinate relationship. And frankly, that has, in my own career, in these years, I've been very fortunate by Swami's grace to be able to work in many, many geographies, right from Middle East, be it in Russia, in Eastern Europe, in London, and in the Asia. And I've managed very large teams before coming to Australia. Uh, few thousands of people in many times as chief operating officer, as a MD of various businesses. But one thing that really made me stand out, not consciously, just because the way we have grown, is that people connection. And I have numerous occasions where this has stood out. It spans across cultures. Doesn't matter. There are very different cultures in each of these places. And be it Middle East to Europe, Europe to Asia, be it a place like Russia, Czech Republic, which are very, very unique in that sense. But one thing which was a very common is what Swami had taught us, is about man management and how to be connected with people and all of that. So to me, I look back, and those are the treasured learnings that you got through Puttaparthi, living not just by MBA, but right from my 8th grade all the way up to MBA, all the lessons that we learned through in Swami's institution. But I think the accent of MBA is uniquely on that man management piece, is what my takeaway is. I might be not covering the entire aspects, but I just thought I will focus on the element which I've
Yeah,
taken away.
sure, sure. Perfect. Let me give you a flavor of it. And Satya, you're welcome to chip in when you feel like. Uh, as Swami would always say that character, he stresses a lot on character. And for that character, he promotes values. And for values, he says God. You can't have values without God. And without values, you can't have character. And character is what makes the man management possible. So look at the linkage, right? Do you see that there is a kind of a flow which I always enjoy from Bhagwan, how he has placed everything. So how do you look at that piece and your MBA per se, or as a full school course? Both of you have studied from the both areas.
Yeah,
Satya, why don't you go ahead? Yeah.
Kata, just I would like to go back to your previous point. It was wonderful listening to you with your cross-cultural experience, actually. But my mind goes back to a date in 1993. It was July 17th, 1993, and we had the opportunity. Bhagwan had called our whole batch in for an interview, actually. And this, as I just mentioned, this was this new course, Masters in Financial Management. So Swami just allowed us to all settle down and sit. And then once we were at ease in the interview room, Swami opened up by asking, "How are you all?" And then he just slipped in a question which seemed innocuous, but then extremely relevant question. He said, "What is financial management?" And then everybody went on, different jargon, whatever we had read in Khan and Jane or any of these books, we tried to vomit out, and then Bhagwan wasn't happy. Bhagwan just said. Finally, he said, this is true, whether it's financial management or business administration or whatever. He just said, finally, it all boils down to man management. He said the man management is the key. So it just reinforces, the divine reinforcement of what Katta just said, actually. Swami just said everything boils down to man management. It's so very true, isn't it? And regarding the MBA course, the MPO course has, as Katta mentioned, Bhagwan's intervention, Bhagwan's personal ideas into it, also the value orientation. If you look at the scams in the last 2 or 3 decades, everything is because of erosion of values. So the thing is, it just brings into sharp focus the need for value orientation in business, and how business slips in case values are not adhered to. Actually, yeah. So this is what
I remember you all did an play on Harshad Mehta's bank scam, and Bhagwan seemed to watch it.
Yeah. Actually, this was Katta also might remember. Katta, this was during our third year. Actually, you would have been in your final year. Actually, what had happened was this was Shiv Pandit sir was a business communication teacher, and he was always telling us that we needed to do a program. And then this thing came. The scam just broke out in April, and we were working on it. Shiv Pandit sir came to us and said that we need to do something like this. We worked this out, and then it was meant to be a moral class program only, to be put up for a 1-hour program on Thursdays. And then on a Wednesday, suddenly in the morning, some of our classmates felt that, no, why don't we give an invite to Bhagwan? So surely we sent an invite. This was a last minute SOS to the card room, and the card room actually came up with a card. We all were sitting in front, and the card came just in time. Just in time. The music had already started, and then only the card arrived, actually. So, but then we gave the card
Satya,
to Bhagwan.
sorry to budge you in. You just said card boys. I want to tell the viewers that it sounds so professional that you need a card and you tell the card room boys and they make a card and give it to you. So we had a department. By the time they had a department of cards, and some boys had signed up for making cards, and they got trained into it, and they used to make lovely cards.
Lovely ones.
Sometimes the cards used to be in 3-dimensional. So that's what he's telling you, that they told card boys to make a card and it was all ready.
Yeah.
And yes, Satya, continue.
Sorry,
Mani is actually mentioning here that it was July 17th, 1993, and he congratulates you for remembering the date exact. Okay.
Yeah.
Carry on.
Yeah. So the thing is, they were out and out professionals, actually. They could make a card in half an hour's time, in 2 hours' time. They could come up with, they could conjure up a card. That is what they were, card magicians, actually. So they just came up. We gave the card to Bhagwan. We showed it to him. And to our pleasant surprise, he took the card. And then we just realized that, and Swami said, "I will come." And the next day morning was the program. We actually put up the program, and then in the evening, what had happened was Swami just came out and said, "Today in the morning, I came to the institute. The wonderful program. These boys put up. It was. I really enjoyed it. I was watching it, and that and this, and he sent word later that he will come for the program." And he didn't give us much time. This was on a Thursday, and on Saturday morning, he sent word saying that he will come for the program on Sunday. So Sunday, there was very less time. And the whole program was about the stock scam. So can you imagine putting up a program, such a materialistic program in front of Bhagwan? It was explaining the mechanics of the stock scam. Such a mundane sort of a thing. But then, this was Bhagwan. He was ready to sit through.
Let me bring in Bhaskar here. Bhaskar, how do you look at it? On one hand, we have a concept of God as very spiritual. I don't know what spirituality means here, but we have a different, version of God in our mind. That when you go to God, you have to go in a particular format only. And here are the boys who are invited him for a Harshad Mehta drama and a scam of a bank scam. How do you look at it, Bhaskar?
No, I guess that's the most interesting or the multifaceted side of Swami that most people probably don't see. When Swami comes for darshan and just waves his hand, probably they say a very, very different side of Swami. I think the type of interactions that Swami had and allowed the students to have with him are absolutely entirely wide ranging, right from uh, like I probably have mentioned earlier about visiting a basketball match or a volleyball match or watching a drama of this nature or watching dances, a whole lot of things which one can hardly associate with Bhagwan is what he lets and does with students.
And one
I
more
think
thing.
it's such a mind-boggling thought also to see. I'm watching and bank scam with Swami, and he
Yeah, but
would
that
take really a deep interest in these things, huh?
yeah,
I
but
think
that was
years
not the
down
end.
the line, actually, he had also had a bank conference which he had hosted in Puttaparthi
Yeah,
some years down the
spirituality.
line. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Let me put a question to you on the same topic. What do you think is the significance, and what do you understand as spirituality in management? How would you understand and explain that? Spirituality in management.
That's a very, very deep topic you're asking, Abhimanyu. Yeah, yeah. But I guess, frankly, I don't look at it that way. I think spirituality in isolation is spirituality, but when you bring it into a normal life, it means back to your behaviors, your actions, of which are born out of spirituality. The lessons out of spirituality is what you translate to, and that's where they come together, and that's what you see it on a day-to-day basis. I think your spiritual grounding or spiritual base is what stays with you through the thick and thin, because there are going to be ups and downs that you face through your one's real world experiences in terms of one's own personal professional situations. I think that's the way I would think about it. I think spirituality and management, I think that's the way I would relate to. Probably
Okay,
I'm
if
just
And
I
thinking on my
just
feet.
to just to add,
yes,
I
correct,
feel it's
Satya.
I feel it's just value orientation and practice of values in management. Actually, roughly we could term it that way. Like in the sense that is my take on spirituality in management. Actually,
Okay, let me put another thought at your head. Swami used to say that everything in life is spiritual, right?
Yeah.
exactly,
And he
exactly.
would say that whatever you do
Do it as
has
an
the
offering.
same goal, has the same goal. Whether you have to act, so whether I brush my teeth or go to work, ultimately I'm doing all of that for one goal, and that is self-realization, and that is spiritual. If you put it like a spiritual target,
Yeah.
so do you see that the concept which you are talking, Sir Bhaskar, now connect? If you think that company as a company, how does it become a spiritual activity as an offering? So
Yeah.
Uh,
does it help you
Brother,
today from your
Brother,
that
see whether
perspective?
yeah whether see the thing is the whole concept is whether company or spirituality is excellence actually. So the thing is you want to do your best. So for a company to you need to deliver good results. And here in spirituality is doing your best for God. So you and Bhagwan also wants perfection actually. So the thing is you know you do your best, and Bhagwan will take care of the rest
Leave
actually.
the rest.
So yeah,
So,
yeah.
Bhaskar, your input.
Yeah, no, I think like you rightly pointed, Manu, in terms of spirituality, eventually there's a goal which is a self-realization of sorts. I guess in a company situation, I think it is again the commitment or the role that companies play is what is the final goal, because you will have a year when you make great results, poor results, but the ones companies which really last for a long, long time, the blue chip companies, are the ones which are focused on the real outcome for all stakeholders, most importantly, increasingly, the community. I think that's where I see the element of overlap of spirituality and the materialistic or the financial results that companies are looking after. But the ones who are unidimensionally focused only on a shareholder are not going to last forever. They are going to have their own situation. The ones which are more rooted, grounded, and focused on all stakeholders, especially increasingly, like I said, community, as we have seen through the more and more recent times, most companies are veering towards it. Yeah.
I'm happy that you mentioned in your boardrooms you are hearing more discussions which are beyond the financial lines,
Yeah.
financial target lines, and now you're looking at it. So I believe that is what Swami was training us some 40 years back. That look beyond money. Money
and
is a natural
and
outcome.
funnily, it's not because they are suddenly interested in all that, because it
Yes,
is the market is wanting that. The regulators are pushing for that. The more bigger picture, the landscape, macrocosm is changing, and that's where these companies are suddenly getting more and more involved. It is not
they are
no
forced
longer
into it.
a line on the wall. It becomes more meaningful. You'll see more and more CEOs talking about it. Yeah.
Let me show you some pictures and bring the topic a little bit lighter now. So
Yeah.
I want to just to trigger your memories by your pictures. So who is this smart guy?
Yeah, this was a photo taken during my third year actually. So I was leading the contingent, being the vice captain. So you had the photo, you had the admin block in the background. So I think the
Yeah,
photographer did a great job actually. So that's what it is.
excellent.
So, yeah, this was during our. This was, I can give you the date. This would be 11th Jan 1993 actually, and this was just after the sports meet
Sports
actually,
meet
and
inauguration. Yeah.
sports meet,
Mm.
yeah,
Actually,
sports meet.
people should know that it was a kind of an unsaid culture. After the sports was over, boys would rush back to Mandir, especially the bike boys and the award
Captains.
winners, captains, and all that. We would run back to get a picture with Bhagwan, and that is where this whole drama
Yeah, but
happened.
my take on that. If you can just go back just a minute, brother, if you don't mind. My take on this photo was Ballu is all Ananda. Barani, who was with me, he was all ecstasy. I was a little more emotional that day because I was just taken in by the moment. So that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bharani he's from a primary school, so he's more used to that proximity. And I
Yeah.
don't blame you for that, Satya, because with Swami, anybody can go blank anytime.
Yeah, exactly,
You
exactly.
know, so
Yeah.
this
This was in March 1995. This was in a Purnachandra session actually. So when Bhagwan, all the boys who had helped out in the hostel in various co in support activities, whether in the
I would like you
stores,
to
fruit
I would
stall.
like you to tell the people like how in your era,
Yeah,
Bhagwan had started giving you all this Purnchandra sessions.
yeah. This
What
was
was that session? What was that session
yeah.
all about?
Yeah, this was a development which took place post June 1993 when Bhagwan shifted his residence to the Purnachandra actually, and then
Hmm.
from there on select Sundays he used to call the entire student community. I meant the Prashant Nilayam hostel boys, and then he used to interact. This used to go on. Uh, for maybe a couple of hours. Sometimes it used to be unstructured, or sometimes he used to have select boys speaking, somewhat similar to the Thrive sessions, but
So
not so informal.
Percy version of Trey session, but not so
Exactly,
informal.
but not so informal. Yeah, not so informal. Actually. Yeah,
Great.
yeah.
Actually,
Thrive
yeah.
sessions were still Thrive. Yeah, great.
Overall,
Yeah,
Swami
this
has started giving the flavors to all of you, right?
Yeah, this was
What is
after
this
one of
was
the
in
during one of the summer courses. Our batch photo actually. This would be 1993 summer course actually, if my memory serves me right. This was I think all the batches took photos on the steps actually. Bhagwan, that was a photo session actually. This was
Mm.
just at the end of the summer course. I think Bhagwan blessed every batch with photos on the steps.
So sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, this we saw our Bhangra dance.
Yeah, this was during one of the Purnachandra sessions actually. There was an altar competition in the hostel, and then this was during this was 1994 altar competition, and this is our room's contribution to the
Oscar, in
altar.
our time, we used to have altar in hostel. Swami used to
Hostel.
visit,
That's
and
right.
then
Yeah,
I
okay.
believe it became altar competition in the hostel. And by the time Satya came, it was altar was taken to Swami.
Sorry.
Alto was taken there. Yeah, exactly, exactly. But looking at it, this is what Bhagwan is. It is an extremely simplistic, altar.
Yeah.
And then Bhagwan decided to bless us.
Yes, Bhaskar. What is this?
This was in my grade 12. That was 1988. As part of Swami was so involved in sports that I guess every year he would come and do prize distribution. This is the school prize distribution where he had come to the school building. I was fortunate to have won the all-round or the champion cup at that year, and Swami was kind enough to hand over that to me. That is my first personal photograph, one-to-one photograph with Swami, which I've framed and kept it in my album forever.
I want to tell viewers that in those days, Bhagwan used to go to each campus to do the prize distribution. So he'll come to the hostel and do, boys and college, then primary school, then he go to Vrindavan and then go to Anantapur. So every campus he would go and do the prize distribution separately. And later on, I think it got merged into college. And then he used to just send prizes to every campus.
Yeah.
But it was a joy because he used to give it to everybody.
Yeah, and
By
it used to be a good 1.5 hour session. And how many
yeah,
of us used to have the opportunity to take Pada Namaskar and take the prize? Yeah.
huge.
Yeah, this was a group of Malayali
Imagine
boys. We had
humanly
gone.
also, right? Humanly so difficult. Every
Absolutely.
boy, whole campus is going to one namaskar, and he's standing and giving. It
Yeah,
was beautiful.
absolutely.
That is a Vrindavan.
Yeah, this was a group of Malayali boys. All of us had gone for Onam from Prashantinilayam campus to Vrindavan. So Swami blessed us with a
Oh, you had
photograph.
a Malayali group. Okay, I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
No, this was for Onam. This was for Onam. The
Okay.
Malayali boys were allowed.
This is again in my degree, probably 91, when Swami had kindly consented to have individual photographs with each of us. And
Bhaskar, I love this picture of yours because you are standing one step lower and Swami is still one step lower. I was too proud. I
yeah,
was too
yeah,
proud.
yeah.
This was a Vedam photograph which we took during after one of the birthday functions actually.
Yeah, this is again the sand time. It's in front of
Yeah,
the mandir. Yes,
yeah.
A similar photograph of Vedam
Veda
in front of
dress.
Mandir. Yeah.
And let people know that the Veda dress, this Angavastram and dhoti, was also given by Bhagwan.
Yes,
So Bhagwan used
and
to give away.
if I'm not mistaken, Abhimanyu, yeah, I don't know which year it was, in our 9th or 10th, Swami had come and distributed all the Angavastram season, the one which
Yes.
devotees were mailing to him. They were from
Yeah.
upstairs. He came and gave patiently to all of us. So
Uh,
those were actually Angavastrams given to Swami, which he had then given to us, which we were using only for this special occasion of chanting Veda in front of Swami.
can you imagine all of these people have retired now? Ved Narayan sir,
Yeah,
Shiv Shankar Sai
Yeah,
sir,
yeah.
Prasanna.
Bhimeshwara.
Oh God. Okay.
Yeah, this is again a sports meet photograph. These are all absolute memorable times when this Nandakumar and me had the opportunity of doing some stunt in front of Swami,
Yeah,
and
we'll
we
see
had
that.
to, yeah,
Hey, this is a very golden picture. I would like the people to know the story of this picture.
yeah. So this is a picture from our travel to Kodai. On the way to Kodai, uh, Swami's car was going in front, and the bus was following behind. There was a point along the journey where Swami decided to stop his car and board the bus, and we were absolutely delighted. And Swami sat in the first row as you entered to the right of the entrance in the bus. And the bus started moving, car started moving, and so there are a lot of devotees lined up along the way because they knew Swami was going to come up the hill, and people are waiting for Swami and Swami's darshan. So they would bow in front of Swami's car because the car is just moving fast, and they would be disappointed not seeing Swami in there, but they are still bowing. And when the bus comes past, they don't expect Swami to be in the bus, so they're just looking at the bus blankly. And Swami had this wonderful message. Swami was telling, "See, my boys, see, the car which carries Swami is got so much more respect and love because people are praying to that. While where Swami is
Association.
physically in the bus, he said, "This is just bad company. See, I am with bad company. Swami is not even getting recognized here." So it's just a very funny way of saying it. But an important message is, how the value of the situation,
Association. Hmm.
association is such a big thing. And he was just closing his face with the curtain of the bus, and while he was narrating something and trying to hide himself. A beautiful
Uh,
memory again.
it's such a cute picture of Bhagwan holding his, hiding his face.
Yeah,
And look, boys hanging around him. Gosh, that is in Korea.
that is in Kodai. Again, absolutely most memorable times.
Actually, Swami used to send boys, giving them money to go and buy from those vendors.
Yeah.
You
He
know,
used to check whether we have all spent our money because his main idea was to ensure those vendors were making money.
make money. Yes.
Yeah. So this is a very fond memory of mine from my school days. This was in year 12, 1988. Uh, like Swami used to encourage sport is one thing, but actually coming and visiting and watching matches played is a absolutely different level. I've seen Swami come and watch basketball, volleyball. In this case, Swami had come and he wanted a match between college and the school. And you can imagine the undergraduate and postgraduate students, and many of the ones in blue dress are all the college students. Many of them recognized, and we were the school students in white. And given there was a bit of a notice given to us, Habu sir, who Satya was referring to, the principal, and the PE teachers were really after us to ensure that we really put up our best performance. And when the D-Day arrived and Swami came and sat in the Shamiana right next to the basketball court, and he was all eager and awaiting for the match to kick off. And we were really charged up, and probably we were on a real go. The school students started shooting more baskets, and when the first basket that the institute student scored, Swami started saying, that is for you, Vice Chancellor, VC goal, VC goal. And the next one happened, Swami was saying, that is for registrar. And the third one was for the controller. Probably, I don't think they scored many more goals, but we had beaten the institute. And it was such a moment of just looking at Swami's joy and Swami's amount of involvement in the whole thing. And he was following every movement of the students, and forever, probably, those are again etched in golden memories of our memories with Swami.
So that day, school won, not the college boys. Huh?
That's right. That's right.
Oh my God.
Wow.
But it's a very fond memory because you have this Gautam Dutt here. Today you can't
Yes.
even recognize him. So Gautam is
Yes.
here, Bharat is here, Suri.
Yeah.
What is
Yuvraj
it?
Suri.
Yuvraj Suri.
That's right.
Wow. Unfortunate. Beautiful. Beautiful picture. I want to show this picture to the viewers to see that how our stadium used to be in those days. We had this two levels of the sports, and the lower level we had basketball court, and on upper level we used to play cricket and other things. So, and you can see that backdrop,
Absolutely. And I have
phenomenal.
another memory which, when you're talking about it, I still remember, and you would remember that too from my eighth standard. That was not two levels. It was one flow. The hill was
It
flowing down,
was
all the
sloping. It was a very
sloping
slope.
down, and they were having bulldozers coming those days to try
Correct.
and make it in two levels. And
Yeah.
you remember the stories of, or actually, I remember we were in each standard in the ground floor. In those days, because Puttaparthi is known because Puttaparthi means
Snake.
snakes and all of that.
Uh,
And as the bulldozers were trying to level, we had so many snakes crawling into the school and entering into classrooms, and we raising their hood and waiting there. And I can't forget some of those memories when the school, I mean the whole stadium was getting built. It was made into two levels, and then eventually what it is now is so much more richer and beautiful. But then these are all fond memories again. Yeah.
we never had any accident because of the snakes,
No. No.
except Brother Sundar, who was always playing with snakes. So here is your.
Yeah, this is taking Padanamaskar before that momentous match.
I would like to identify this is Mr. Nanjundaya sir, who was
Yeah.
our controller of examination. This is next to him was Mr.
Habu sir.
Habu.
Habu sir.
That is our dear Habu sir, and that is Mr. Borduloy. He was our English professor in the college, and that is actually hidden behind is your MBA dean,
Yeah, Saigil sir.
Mr. Saigal. I don't remember his name, but this is Mr. B.K. Mishra,
Yeah,
and that is Mr. Naidu. He was our campus principal.
that's right.
So just to identify them, and because they were, uh, and he was Mr. Ratan Lal, I think, yes, as a
Yes,
guest
that's
sitting
right.
there.
Yeah, I mean, Swami brought a lot of senior devotees and everybody else along with him for these events. Yeah,
And I would like to identify that Swami used to even come in the afternoons to watch these matches,
that's right.
and rain or sun. Even I think one or two matches has happened when it was raining, and he sat through the match in rain. So it was phenomenal. That is what it is.
Yeah,
I
this
think
is from
Satya,
a
you
sports
and
meet.
Bernie have gone long back, huh? Bernie and you
Yeah,
are
yeah,
together.
yeah, together actually. This was in 1993 actually. That sports this Jan 14th, 1993. Yeah,
Bernie was always in bliss.
yeah,
Similar in my, this was 1991.
That is our, what
Yeah,
is his
with
name?
Shashidhar
Shashi.
Bhatt.
Shashidhar
Bhatt.
Bhatt and myself. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
that's a
yeah,
good medal.
yeah.
Hmm.
This is with Ajit Periwal and myself, Nand Kumar and myself.
This was we used to get had the opportunity to get prizes individually. Subsequently, that blessing stopped actually. But then this was when we were getting the prize individually.
Yeah, everybody used to get a prize at Swami.
Yeah, yeah. This was actually after our third year sports prize distribution day. So all our team captains were there
Yeah,
actually. So it's just that with the hostel as a backdrop, this was 1995 sports meet, Jan 11th, 95. So just leading the contingent, you had the backdrop of the Hillview Stadium.
beautiful.
It's, it's exactly the same picture, probably a few years before Satya.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But
It's
the
really
Hanuman is
nostalgic.
seen.
But look at the
Yeah,
development, slight development has keep happening every year. There's a, new things come up. There used to be
yeah,
a fountain of water behind
That's right.
Shiva from Hanuman's, and this used to be the flame. Every year it gets beautified and
That's
make it
right.
look very glamorous. So this is more colorful that way
Yeah.
than
yeah,
compared to here. Yep.
And this
Wow.
is
So what is Bhaskar doing here?
yeah. No, I think like we were mentioning, uh, a sports meet became such a big event, and all the campuses would prepare so hard for sports meet. Every year they would want to excel and doing more and more mind-boggling stunts in some ways. And Swami used to eagerly come for practice sessions, and he would be sitting at the edge of the seat as he watched each of this. So we students would go no ends to try and do things probably which looking back might have been a little crazy, but at the same time I think it was all absolutely in love for Swami, and Swami would be genuinely involved in this was one such stunt which we had done, which was trying to skate on a metal board which was
But
totally
it
home
doesn't look like
created.
roller skates to me. It doesn't look like roller skates.
No, there are no roller skates. It's absolute flat metal,
Oh,
tied with a rope to a bike in front, and a student driving all the way from the road. And I still remember the amount of sparks and which are coming through. But it was a interesting way of trying to do a skating on a tar road. Yeah,
and I want to just tell the viewers that this was all craziness done just to attract Bhagwan's attention and
absolutely.
do something more for God. That's
Yeah,
all. So
yeah.
finally,
This is
this handsome pictures.
absolutely
Beautiful.
again. Yeah,
I think it was a very nostalgic trip. But let me pause now with this all these thoughts in your head. How did life change after 2011 for both of you? Or did it change at all?
so I think the way I look at it, Abhimanyu, is that it is two steps. The first step is actually moving on from a physical proximity of Swami after a college, because you always had, when you were at Parthi, we relied on physical direction from Swami. We would go with letters, send telegrams, go sit in front, try day after day after day try and run behind where Swami went to try and get attention and try and get a message saying, okay, do this, take this course. So we were always looking for Swami's guidance at every
Physical.
stage, physical. And once you finished your course and went to your professional situation, in this case, my case, 93 onwards, you still had the opportunity to keep coming back to Bharti and have those attempts, but they were not as frequent and as often. So you already had to mentally prepare yourself in trying to connect with Swami at a different level, trying to connect with him, have a different means of communication. But you defaulted at every other opportunity to come back to Bharti and try and have. We used the opportunity of alumni meet where he would shower so much of love. Likewise, making any possible trips to Bharti and have a darshan, or if Swami visited Mumbai, Bangalore, or in Chennai, make an opportunity to go there. But post 2011, actually, it is that same experience probably helped you settle into that mode. You are no longer having a physical recourse, but you had established that mental connect, and which is what you're looking to. And I continue to look and seek Swami's guidance through various stages of my life, my career, my family. And I think he's been really kind to continue shower his blessings and make his own unique way of communicating. I should probably just give in one more recent example. Uh, Having moved to Australia in 2017, and the same company I moved from Singapore into Australia, the company had gone through a lot of changes, quite a few restructures, reorganizations, and which are very common in organizations, but was an unusual share. And I was each time coming through, playing to Swami at every point of time, saying that whatever has to happen is by Swami's blessings. This one final time back in 2019, I had gone through this whole process of re-interviewing for because they had done a concept of spill and fill, where they would spill everybody because they're restructuring and things like that. And I was pretty confident of the outcome because of my performance track record. And one morning when I was waking up, just before I woke up, I had this dream of Swami. Like I said, I've not had too many dreams where Swami came. And that morning, Swami was in my dream. And very distinctly, I remember Swami called me and blessed me and said, take Padanamaskar. And then he said, I will take care. But the message he gave me was saying the outcome was not going to be in what I was expecting. I was like a little surprised. I woke up with a start. I told my wife, I had this dream, and Swami has told me I'm not going to get the job that I applied for, but he's going to take care. She said, why do you think so? Did he say that? I said, I have that sense. That's what I woke up with. I was very clear on that part of it. I went to office. Nothing was planned for the day. It's a normal day. The results or outcome of the thing was not to come on that day. But that afternoon, my manager called me and let me know actually that was the outcome, saying that I didn't get what I had applied for. I was shocked, stunned, at the same time, mentally prepared because Swami had told me that morning. I mean, how else could he have prepared me? More
You were
importantly,
shocked because of the news, or you're shocked because the dream came true?
both. I think a combination, because as much as I believe that Swami was giving me preparing me, I was hoping against hope that of course I should get that role because I was pretty good in the job. Nothing to do with it's a circumstance. I mean, these outcomes are not entirely based on performance. There are a whole lot of other considerations. But I think Swami gave me the message that morning, prepared me for it, and guess what? I managed to get a different role, and after which moved into even better role, which happened only if that didn't happen, I would have continued in that role. So to that extent, two things were there. Firstly, he knows what is good for you. Secondly, he also prepared you because you're having expectations. Now, coming back to 2011, so that is where the communication still exists. And when required, it's not every day that you have a conversation with Swami or whatever, but at the time of need, when he thinks you're going to be probably upset or going to be impacted, I think he's always there on your side. That's the way I would say.
Beautiful. Satya, you're.
Yeah, I absolutely concur with Katta actually on that. The thing is, after Swami left, as you pass out of the institute, I think you sort of mentally resign yourself to the fact that you need to strengthen your inner connect. So after 2011, it was so. Prior to 2011, you still had the opportunity to go and see Swami and recharge yourself. But now we knew that that was not there. But then I've always felt his guiding hand, guiding us, and piloting us. I just want to share one instance of what happened here. Uh, I hope you have the time. It's fine.
No, sure, sure. Please carry on.
Yeah, yeah. See, this happened on December 7th, 2012, actually. So I'm quite, whenever possible, I'm quite involved in the associate with the organization here also, in the sense. So I remember that particular day because that day was an extremely busy day. We had a medical camp in the morning, and the very next day, very next week, that was December 14th, we had a human values drama actually planned. And myself and a friend of mine, both of a young adult, we both were actually doing key roles in that. So that involved a lot of work. So the thing is, right from the morning till around 3 o'clock, we were busy with the medical camp, came back. We needed to have this drama practice. And once we finished the practice, quickly had dinner, and then we realized that we needed to do a re-recording of the whole dialogues actually. So that needed going back again. So again from around 7:30, 8 o'clock, it was. So since the day was extremely busy, and I was totally washed out, and I was detesting this whole thing, and I was telling Swami, see, what is this? From morning I've been struggling, and there is no way I can get a break now since we are heading off into a recording. So what is the point in doing all this? Whatever it is, I went to the gentleman's place here. He did the recording. You won't believe it. At around 9 o'clock, not 9 o'clock, it was around 10 o'clock in the night. There was a knock, just a knock on the door, and the auntie there, actually, she opened the door immediately. There was nobody inside. On the door handle, there was a packet. There was a packet, Telugu newspaper. There were three laddus, quite hot actually. Three laddus there, and the same plastic vibhuti packets which we get from Swami's bag. You know that, the vibhuti packets which we used to look up, and we all used to count how many vibhuti packets we had. So those vibhuti packets, plus there were around half a dozen bookmarks actually, all in a plastic cover on the door, and from their door to the lift, quite a distance. There was nobody there. Immediately we looked around. There was nobody going down on the stairs. These people called whomever their friends. Nobody said that they had come and dropped by anything. So we just realized it was nothing but Bhagwan, because all the signs were there. It was his way of reassuring us that he is always there, guiding and guarding us. And it was a wonderful reassurance. A spine tingling, of course, but then it was a wonderful way. So in the same manner, I think in his own inimitable way, I think even in my personal life, there have been lot of twists and turns. He has always been, his guidance has always been there, which is extremely reassuring. So it's not that
Bhaskar, you have been
it's changed.
traveling. You've also been traveling to a lot of countries. Uh, any final, just you can quickly give us a little snapshot of any such experiences that would show his presence and
Yeah.
impact.
No, I think like I mentioned, very, very fortunate to have had these opportunities to travel around. There are lots of places where Sai activity is very significant and a lot of active participation happens. But I would like to probably call out a couple of places which are not conventional in some ways. I had an opportunity to spend a lead up city's presence when I was in Russia for 5 years. And during that time, I remember visiting the Sai Center there. And it was absolutely stunning when I went first time. There's not one person who is of Indian origin to start with, because somehow you associate Sai centers with Indian origin. Absolutely 100% Russian. And the devotees there were so devoted. They had satsang in the morning, and then they have the bhajans later. And I was told that first Sunday of the month, there would be Indian bhajan. Rest of the Sundays is going to be Russian bhajans. There are a whole lot of books outside, nearly 100 to 200 Swami's books, which are from Puducherry, have all been translated into Russian, and they're all there, which people, as a borrowing library, people can pick up. And the functions that they would have uh, right from Shivratri, where they used to do in a university auditorium, and they would do full night bhajans. They would chant Rudram and everything else with such absolutely brilliant intonation. I would be having learned a bit of Veda at Parthi, and you hear them say, you can relate to what the effort that goes into it, especially when it's not their tongue. It is mind-boggling. You see Swamis really in action in those places. And I also have this popular perception that many people might have, that all the foreign devotees who come to Parthi are all very high-end social status. They are very rich. What I notice there is a big population of them are very normal, middle and lower middle strata of the society. And I was really humbled when I was during my stay in Moscow. They had Orissa floods. One fine day, the Sai Center in charge called me and said, "Brother, uh, we have collected funds and we want to send to Patti." And guess what? The amount was probably a couple of $1,000, and it was probably $10 each from various people. I was so touched by the fact that these are people who are contributing their hard-earned money to an event in India and reaching out. I had arranged for the transfer. I ensured that I contributed my lot to that one, but I felt so humbled by the fact that their love and their real devotion for Swami and his activities. Similarly, I remember very in 2010, when I had moved to Czech Republic. I had happened to be in November, and it was a month of Swami's birthday. So as we got in, we were still in a temporary accommodation, and I Googled to see if there's any Sai Center, just taking a chance, and it happened to be. And I said, okay, let me drive. My younger one was barely months old, and we land up in this place. We were wanting to hide behind, just sit and watch what happens there, because the bhajan's going full swing, and they were going with guitar and drums and everything else. It was not the traditional bhajan. Again, here
It's such
again,
a
there was
beauty.
not a not a single uh, Indian origin or any Asian for that matter. It was entirely the local Czech people. Somebody noticed me, and the delight that they saw in seeing somebody like me, it was almost like as if Swami has sent. They made me come and sit right next to Swami's chair. And no, and I was genuinely embarrassed because I was in no position to be sitting there. I was just one of the
So
participants. But that's you see really Swami's mission in action, or devotees in nooks and corners of the world where you least expect, and it's the same thing but in a very different cultural setting. I mean, these have been phenomenal experiences when I've done. I mean, seeing
I
that
just wanted
happening
to,
in, yeah,
yeah, perfect. I wanted to close this. You were saying that, once Bhagwan had asked Kasturi Garu to go around the country.
yeah,
And when he returned back, Bhagwan asked him, "So, Kasturi, what did you see?" And Kasturi Garu very humbly said, "Swami," and he was a very poetic person that way. He said, "Swami, inti inti ki uchamu," something in Telugu. He said that
yeah, inti
every
intiki,
house, every house, inti is a house in Telugu. He
yeah.
said, "Inti inti ki." So he said, even every house is there. And Bhagwan said, "Vaddura, inti inti kadu, inchi inchi ki unna." So he said, "I'm in every inch, not in every house." So he punned the word and he made it. So when we hear these stories, we see the glory of Lord everywhere. And I think, it is our pleasure and blessings, I would say, to experience that and be there. So I'm really thankful to both of you for giving your time, and I think we have also come to the concluding time. So as a final, let me ask you a final word. Any thoughts from your side? Give us just a small question. Close it in your thoughts. What is Swami to you today, both of you, and say final words. Satya.
I think he is the He's the ultimate man manager, the ultimate CEO the world has seen. Um, it's difficult to actually, frankly, to me, to sort of say in one sentence what Bhagwan means. It's a very profound question, but uh, uh, I think it would be right to say that he means the world to us, actually. So I'll leave it at that. So, yeah.
Any final words, Satya, you would like to share before we close?
No, at the outset, I would like to thank you, brother. Gratitude to Bhagwan first, and thank you for this wonderful opportunity. Thanks listening to brother Katta. Katta, it's been wonderful listening to you. Those wonderful instances. It really took us back in time, and only a few years back, I had the opportunity to catch up with Katta when I went for this alumni meet. But then this was a wonderful opportunity. I pray that Bhagwan keeps you and your family safe, healthy, and fine. And the same for you, brother. And I thank all the people who have tuned into the show. And thank you all for your time. For me, it was actually reliving those instances. So then it was a wonderful experience, actually. The last few weeks,
Thank
actually, trying to put this together, reliving those memories and going down memory lane was an excellent exercise, actually. So it brought all those instances back to life. So it relived those instances, and it's a wonderful morale booster for me, actually, personally. Actually. Thank
you,
you for this
Satya.
opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bhaskar, yours.
Yeah. Yeah. Firstly, to your question about what Swami means to me, I think
Yeah.
is other way around. What I am today is entirely what Swami, because of Swami, and he's made me what I am, both as a person, as an individual, as a family man, or being just a human being. I think he shaped me, he sculpted me, and probably that's what I think I owe it all to him, and always remain that way. And I think again, Satya was eloquently sharing what the build up to this event. Probably when we spoke earlier this week, and this is a quick. I thank you personally for having taken the effort to try and coordinate and prepare, and at the same time. Of course, all of this is by Swami's grace and Swami's divine plan, and that's how we believe these things. You can't plan, and they don't happen just like that. And thank all the audience for sitting through or listening through, or whoever listens through eventually. But I genuinely feel privileged. I'm not somebody who has spoken in these forums before, so pardon me if I'm not being as interesting, or probably shared the boring details sometimes.
Oh, no,
But
no.
but then I genuinely feel I've gained a lot more, like reconnect. It's almost reliving. At the same time, this is what we call satsang in any other form, probably. And I think genuinely thinking of Swami regaling all those wonderful experiences, and almost living back those times in these last 2 hours. Time has just flown by.
Thank you, both of you. I wish all to do offer my gratitude to Bhagwan. It is only because of his grace that we are able to relive these beautiful moments and think about him and share this love and gratitude. So thank you,
Salam.
viewers, all of you, for joining us. And this video will be available on our channel. You're welcome to watch it, share it, and spread the joy. Thank you so much. Sai Ram.
Salam. Salam.
Sai Ram very
Sairam,
much.
Sairam. Thank you.